It's the greatest podcast in the history of the world.
It goes high up and under the full 40.
Becky's taking a ripper!
He has a bounce, he crosses 50, he pins the ears back, and he drills the goal!
All the latest news and views from around the VAFA.
Here's the big man!
Big on.
He's done it again! This bloke extracts some of the finest!
All thanks to MECWACARE, proud partner of the VAFA.
Makes a name for himself with these long bombs from outside the arc. It's a long bomb from outside the arc.
This is for the love of the game.
You can tweet that and hashtag it bloody good.
Hello everyone and welcome to For the Love of the Game, the official podcast of the Amos. Hope everyone had a happy and safe Easter. We're back again building up towards round 3 of the 2025 season. We're here all thanks to MECWACARE, and it's a very big welcome to Jason Bennett and Paddy Grindlay. Hello lads.
Hello Joseph, how was your weekend?
Sensational. Collingwood knocked off the Brisbane Lions. The VFLW girls got the job done. The VFL side went down by a point, so it was pretty good for me. How was yours?
And it was a very big weekend, and for our boy Patrick Grindlay, who made his VFLW and VFL calling debut. Congratulations, that's outstanding.
Yeah, it was an interesting weekend. You had the Geelong and Box Hill game down at Deakin Uni in the morning on Saturday, and then got an early text message on Sunday morning that someone was needed to call the Footscray Sandy game. So jumped out to Whitten Oval, got to see a Joey Campili clinic.
How many VAFA mentions did you get in across both games?
Well, considering I had about 10 minutes of prep for the VFL one, and there were a few VAFA boys getting around.
The only players he called.
The only players I did call. So Andy Matheson, a big cheerio to you.
Now, Jace, you also were there Saturday night doing Port Melbourne and Essendon. A lot of VAFA mentions in that one. But I'm told as we hit record on this one today, there is a man that we're speaking to that I somehow have a connection with, but you haven't said anything else. So I'm assuming it might be Harry Hill, it might be Will Clark, it might be someone from St Bernard's.
It's Big V week in terms of launching the Big V. We're going to announce, last week we announced Luke Marnie and Paul Carrigan to be coaching the Premier B and the Under-19 Big V teams. We're going to chat with Luke a little bit later on the podcast here. And we're also going to announce the 2 coaches for the Big V senior team, men's and women's. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the new coach of the Big V senior men's team is...
That's me! That's me! Is this me? Where's Joey Pignataro? Is he on yet?
Is that Big Shorts Daniel Harford?
It is Big Shorts Daniel Harford.
You betcha it is, Joey.
We run out of options, have we? We've gone to shorts again.
Hey. Listen, this could be a very good conversation or a very short one, Joey. It's up to you.
Good to hear your voice, Daniel.
Nice to be hearing your voices, lads. It's a great podcast you're doing, and I'm very, very excited to be getting the opportunity to coach the Big V. Looking forward to it.
Congratulations, Harf. It is an honour, isn't it? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, no, it's incredibly humbling. I'm really excited about it. It is a tremendous honour, as you say, Jose. It's a great competition, the Amos, we all love it. That's why we are so engaged and involved in it, and so many people have been involved in it for so many years. And the Big V is a very special part of the whole process. Doesn't matter what level of football it is. If you represent your state, we obviously represent Victoria now, this part of the world. It's a very special thing, and I know how loved and dearly held it is within the AMO community to wear the Big V at all different levels. So I'm incredibly excited and humbled to get the opportunity to lead it in what's a big year, 100th year of the VAFA, and it gets Perth who defeated us last year. So it's a big year, and we're going to get some revenge, and I'm looking forward to it.
Geez, he's saying all the right things already, isn't he, Harf? He's had 5 years to practice this speech because you were the coach of the Big V in 2020, Daniel, for the girls, and unfortunately COVID knocked you out. And then when we decided to bring back representative footy, we decided to sack you as the coach.
Well, that was a bit of a setback for my coaching career, really. That was the beginning of the end of my time at Carlton and the AFLW when I got the sack without being a coach.
That doesn't happen often, Harf. Not often blokes get sacked as coach without actually even coaching a game.
I'm a very gifted man in many aspects of life, and that was just clearly another layer to add to that, Chase. No, I must admit, all jokes aside, I was a bit flat about that.
Understandably.
I got the boot before I even got a chance to do it.
All I remember was sitting in your chair, Jace, as the media manager here at the Amos, and we announced Paul Groves as the next coach of the Big V girls team, and no pressure on Grovesy, but Harf texted me and said, Frank, because that's what he calls me, and he'll tell you why later, Frank, I thought that was my job, and no one told me it's not anymore. So has anyone contacted you since this announcement, Daniel, to tell you why you weren't the coach of the girls a few years ago?
I've been going through my spam folder for years because I assume it's just got lost. It hasn't come directly through the inbox. It must have been a spam situation that the address got spammed. I don't know why, Frank. I don't know what happened there. Grovesy, look, he's not bad. I suppose he has his moments, but I reckon he's overdone and overhyped, and I'm pretty disappointed.
From a putting the squad together type perspective, Half, there's obviously so much talent, not just at Premier Men's level, but also down through Premier B, Premier C. Obviously, you're going to have a good group of people around you to help you with squad selection. There's a core group of players that have been involved in previous seasons, but there's so much to choose from. It really is an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah, I've been doing a little bit of reconnaissance from people in the know in the last couple of weeks, just trying to work out who's who in the zoo a bit. And they are extremely excited about the level of talent that we can get into the squad and eventually the team for this. So that's, and people that have been on the ground and much more active in the week-to-week competition than I have for the last couple of years. So I'm excited about getting them on board to be a part of the crew. They reckon it's an immense depth through the entire competition. They're the top three grades, as you talk about, especially Jace. So we're expecting a pretty strong squad. And I know that there's a bit of a burn in the belly after what happened last year against Perth. So, I think the players are keen. The clubs are keen to see their players do well at representative level, and I know the competition is really keen to make amends for what happened last year. So, there's a bit on this, but enormous talent all the way through. Yeah,
100 players in the VAFA currently on VFL list, so there's a lot to choose from just from that group alone. Half, what are you looking for in terms of style of player, style of football that you want to play?
Well, my coaching philosophy has always stemmed around being a really skillful, aggressive, attacking team. Defence is obviously, contest and defence, and we hear all that sort of stuff is a foundation for a lot of teams, a lot of coaches, but and certainly at representative level, when you got the best of the best, you want to see some real flair and excitement, I reckon, because more often than not, those players who get to this nomination stage or get to represent the Big V, we know the foundations and the fundamentals are really good. It's not about reinventing the wheel with representative footy, but you just get your best players doing their job and doing the best that they can in their role through some real excitement and aggression and attacking footy. That's what I want to see from the Big V this year.
Half, what does the next month or so of recruitment look like for you?
I'll be watching a few games. That's what I'll be doing, Paddy. I'm looking forward to getting out amongst it on the Saturdays and watching some action, live action. I'll watch plenty of the videos on the replays as well. So watching that, and also just having a chat to all the people that I sort of respect through the industry and that are out there watching all the other games that I can't get to and putting a squad together. So there'll be a fair bit of conversation happening live at games, but also on the phones and the emails about putting the best squad we can hopefully together for a big performance. So that's the next month, and then we get to training, and it's sort of all comes together pretty quick.
So all the people that he respects in the industry, Joey's ringing around to get opinions of, but you didn't even know he was coach, so he hasn't rung you.
He hasn't rung me yet. That must be said. Yet. No. He knows how busy I am.
Little Italian jockeys don't get too many phone calls when it comes to football matters.
Look, I was going to ask you a nice question next, but now I probably won't bother with that, Daniel. It's been a long time since you last coached in the Amos. 2016, I'm pretty sure it was, when you were in charge of St Kevin's. Are you excited about the prospect of, again, being aligned with this competition from a coaching standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I love the Amos. Like, I've talked about this a lot, that I grew up watching the Amos. I was a Collingwood supporter, as you well know, Frank, back in the old days, and we'd watch Collingwood at home at Vic Park one week, and then when they played away, if it was too far away back in the old days, I'd go and watch Parade play up at the Garvey Oval, and they were an A grade at the time, a fantastic powerhouse club at the time in the Amos, and I lived for that weekend because it was just up the road from home, and I'd go and you sniff the liniment and all that sort of stuff, and you're right up close, quarter time and half time breaks, and I loved it. So I've had a great passion for the Amos for a long time through that parade grounding, but then of course spending those years at St Kevin's and seeing that club grow to what it's become as well. So I'm incredibly pumped about the opportunity to get back and be amongst the throng. I obviously keep in contact with a lot of people from St Kevin's and have done since the last 5 or 6 years or so. What's coming up 10, I suppose, 10 years since I haven't been involved. So I've got a great connection to that. I coach at St Kevin's College with Simon Williams, who was an old Brighton champ and premiership coach and old Corp Grammarians premiership coach. So we talk about the MOs a lot week to week as well, coaching the kids at school. So it's still a big part of my life. I just haven't been able to be involved as intimately as I would have liked through the last couple of years.
Take us back to those years at St Kevin's, Half, because I've explained to many people that before you took over as coach, they couldn't break through Premier B to win that elusive final. I think they might have lost 10 or 11 finals in a row before you finally won the second semi in 2015. And at halftime of the grand final, you're so far down, you may as well call it quits against the old Melburnians. And it was a coaching masterclass, in your words, a coaching masterclass to come from behind and win that game. And they haven't looked back since then, Daniel.
No, well, I must admit, it brings me great pride to see what they've been able to build since we started the resurrection, as I call it. And, of course, on the back of the Easter weekend, it's perfect timing for that analogy. We worked really hard. And look, my first couple of years, we went out straight sets the first year, and I reckon there must have been an elimination final that second year. And I was under the pump. It wasn't just the Carlton AFLW people trying to sack me. It was the AMA. It was the St Kevin's people trying to sack me. So I was under the pump. So I had some great support to keep me in the loop there. And we had a couple of players to the mix, which was helpful as well. And there was just an air of – what was it? It was not inferiority, but just a real air of anxiety once it got to September. Through that period for St Kevin's, because they just hadn't been able to get over it. And despite the fact I thought we were certainly capable and one of the better teams through those first couple of years, that we just didn't get there, and the mountain was seemingly too big to conquer. So that 2015 year, when we got that semi-final victory, we were able to just get into the grand final. I win the first final, but then get into the grand final and get promotion to the to A grade that next season was an immense relief for everyone at the club. But to see it grow since then, they've been enormously successful with under obviously Anthony Lynch now, who was my captain back in those days. Shannon Grant before him, cut flags as well. So it's great to watch. It's great to see that they've been able to really blossom on the back of some really challenging years, mentally and emotionally, to really grow as a club and become a real powerhouse again. It's great.
Jace, have we confirmed whether we're using Sharon footies this year versus the Burley?
1,000% Sharon's after last year's Burley debacle.
Good.
Last year's Burley balloon debacle, Half.
Now, I've heard about the Burley debacle. I don't want to hear any excuses from my players, Jason. No.
Good.
We won't be bringing up anything about the bloody Burley debacle, because we'll be using Sharon's initially for firstly. And we'll be making sure next year, or whenever we go back to Perth, we'll be putting a few in the duffel bag as well. Don't worry about that. But I have heard about this Burley situation.
Yeah, the Perth Football League, fair dinkum. They play on the weirdest grounds, and they play with the most shocking football that's ever been created. Better off playing with one of those petrol footies which was plastic and break your toes.
Oh, that end that broke your toe. Yeah. You had to kick flat punts.
Correct.
Now, Half, you've got a very big task, obviously, picking the team that's going to win in our 100th anniversary. But equally, you've got to find a Big V representative to come and speak to the team on the Thursday night. Have you got a shortlist of someone who can come down there? I know you've got a great friend who we both know, who's one of the Richmond Central's play on the ground that it's named after, Kevin Bartlett Reserve. Is he number one on your list to come and speak to the boys?
Well, this is actually this is breaking news for me, Joey. This is exclusive for you. I had no idea I was required to bring someone for the
Well, you've
chat,
got to do a
that's
job,
news to
Harv.
me.
You can't just stand there with a whiteboard. You've got to bring something to the community here.
Oh, I would have thought my chat would have been fine, but that's all right. We'll talk about somebody else. Well, the great Kevin Bartlett, as you well know, is very capable of entertaining and inspiring an audience. So now that you've mentioned that that's a requirement, he's certainly at the top of the list.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
I won't bring Dr. Turf, though.
No, don't bring Dr. Turf. No, you know he's quirky and very antagonistic and most of the time very unlikable, Half.
Borderline unlikable, yeah.
One more from us, Half, before we let you go. From a cohesion and chemistry perspective, talk us through, and you've had great experience both as a player and as a coach, at putting representative teams together. How important is it to build that chemistry and cohesion quickly, and how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, it's not easy. It's a really good point, Jace. It's something that's a real challenge, I reckon, for any sport that brings together players from teams to become a part of a specialist squad, representative squad, whatever it is. It's the biggest challenge you got, I reckon. So what we'll have to do early doors is get everyone in and maybe even just take the focus off footy for a bit, but just spend some time together and hang out and learn a bit about each other. I reckon that's a really powerful thing to do. In the old days, they used to call it a lock-in. Not necessarily alcohol involved, but just spending some good quality time together early and just get to know each other on a more emotional level, as opposed to just being footballers out there doing your thing, which we all know they can do. So it's a really good point, and it's something I'm pretty keen to sort of harness early doors, get together and just hang out together and just be humans, and then we'll work on the footy on the back of that. Because I reckon if we can get that connection really strong early, and I know there's a great underlying passion for the Big V, which will get everyone sort of going early. If we can really develop that in the first couple of weeks, then I reckon that'll go a long way to giving a really strong performance on game day.
Absolutely, and we can't wait for it on July 12. Jace is the Big V men up against the Perth Footy League in the 100th anniversary of the Big V in the Amos. And our man, Daniel Harford, he is the senior coach. Harf, it's been great to hear your voice, and I'm sure we'll catch up again before they play that game in a few months' time.
Cannot wait for it. Very excited. Have a great day in sport, and we'll chat tomorrow.
Thanks, Harf.
Great to spend some time with Daniel Harford, who is the senior coach of the Big V program this year. Let's flip over to the Premier B to Division 3 side now. And one man who Harf actually knows very well is Luke Mahoney, who, of course, is a premiership coach with Fitzroy. Spent a couple of years there doing some A-grade work as well. But before that, he was a premiership captain of St Kevin's. And Marnes has been announced as the coach of this Premier B to Division 3 side. And he's been good enough to jump on the phone and join us on For the Love of the Game. Hello, Marnes.
G'day, Joey. How you going?
Couldn't be better, to be honest. Hearing from Daniel Harford first, and now we get to chat to yourself about your own journey across the Amos over a number of years. But let's start with this coaching appointment for the second year in a row. How's this one sitting with you?
Yeah, really excited, mate. It's an honour, obviously, to be asked to lead it again. Last year was a great experience. All round in bringing the group together with the coaches and the players, and then being able to get that win in the end, and so to be able to have another crack at it is really exciting, and it will be a big challenge for us for this one up at Bendigo this time around, and I'm sure they'll be fired up to get a win themselves.
Marnes, what did you learn from last year that you'll be looking to apply this season?
I think, Paddy, that the thing for us was a big unknown, even for the comp itself for us. There's 50 teams we had to get across, so it's no mean feat in a 6-week period to try and scour across all the divisions and within the comp and pull a list together. So I feel like we know a lot more about the playing lists across the divisions. In saying that, I think the hardest thing for us and the thing we learnt was it was a really short time frame in trying to bring all that together really quickly. And so I think we'll be looking to see if we can add at least another a week to the sessions for people to get to know each other as well. So that was probably the biggest learning, and just learning see a lot of the guys in the divisions that probably didn't have a handle on, like I did on the Premier B and Premier C side.
Marnes, we see the Big V luncheon every year, which is always packed out, and it's one of the great events on the calendar. And this year we're having a massive gala event, which will be the biggest event the VAFA's ever had to kick off that Big V Rep weekend. And every year you just see that the most important thing about the Big V, after the wins and losses fade, is the relationships and the friendships that get created out of being involved in these squads. And you've witnessed that firsthand, and it probably holds you in good stead this year time around, doesn't it? Because a lot of the relationships that were built last year are already still enduring.
Yeah, it is, Jason. Like I mentioned to you last week, that the WhatsApp group for the team is still pinging. Close to a year later on, it was all the school teachers who are all rubbing it in that they're playing golf on holidays. So, but that's exactly one of the main benefits and reasons I think people get involved in this is to meet people from other clubs and make friendships and form relationships that way. And that was certainly evident last year as well. It was really, I think, for that that luncheon even we had last year was a great idea that all the players were invited, and that was just something that really set the tone for the upcoming weekend for that group. I think majority, I think it was only one or two that had ever played for the Big V before, and so those guys were really excited to be part of the whole event. So this one, being the 100th year, it's going to even be more special, and I'm sure there'll be lots of players chomping at the bit to be involved.
And from memory, you referenced that luncheon, didn't you, on game day when you were talking to your troops, because a lot of them had walked into the lunch not really understanding the significance and the size and the magnitude of the Big V and what it means to be a part of that very special group. And it really did hammer home to people just how important this is and how many people are relying on you to get the job done.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like I think that just reinforced it, didn't it? Having seen all that history, the amount of times that the VAFA have got the win against other states or other competitions. There's a lot of pride involved in putting on that Big V, and so that really reinforced to them that this is not just a one-off event. This is something that has a lot of tradition and history attached to it, and it's a privilege to be able to put on that jumper, and that's what they did. And that last 10 minutes, especially in our game, when we were under the pump and Bendigo were really coming, I think it was just that maybe just that little 1% that sort of helped us get over the line in the end.
It's always fun to watch showcase football because it seems like the players are free to really express themselves. Are you looking to focus on that element of the football when we get around to the game against Bendigo?
Yeah, for sure. There was like the game last year was a great standard. I think anyone who witnessed it would have said it was a high standard Premier game, and so pretty free flowing contest as it was. Hard running sort of game, really quick. And so that's again what we'll be looking for in the team that we pick. We go up to Golden State this time around, and that is a massive ground up there. So there'll be no hiding there for anyone. So we'll need a team of hardworking 22 that can run up and down all day, because that's what we'll need this year.
Marnes, I read exactly what you just explained on vafa.com.au earlier on in the week, and I'm interested. And I spoke about this earlier in the week to someone else around picking sort of representative teams. Do you go looking for the best possible player available? Do you go looking for a role player to stop someone from the opposition? Or are you just looking to get the team that's going to work and gel the best that you can find, the 22 that are available?
Oh, I think it's probably the latter. Look, that's just the method that we went with last year. So that worked well for us last year. It's not necessarily the best player in each team. I think I've said we can't pick 22 ruckmen. We've got to pick one or two and work around it from there. And so it is a bit of a balancing act. And there was definitely there was probably a couple that were unlucky to miss and from our end, but it is trying to get a group that can complement each other and get that balance right across all the three lines, in that you've got the keys that you need and the runners that you need, and that's the difficulty. Definitely last year was Bendigo. We didn't really know what they were going to put up as well, and so you sort of you're selecting a side without really knowing, well, they're going to have four tools themselves as well. So that's a bit of a challenge, that you just got to pick the best side for you that you think can win against anyone, rather than trying to guess what you think the opposition might do.
What is the scouting and selection process from here, Marnes?
So we've got the team reassembled from last year, and we're all out and about to get across. As I said, we've got 5 divisions to get across, and so we'll try and get through as many games and as many videos. I've just been to Perth, and it's a pretty good long trip, so you can get a few videos in on that, or a few games on that. So I watched a couple of games on replay there, and so it is pulling together. I think the first thing for us is we've got the list from last year, so we're in a good starting position, and it's then who we're adding. And I really am keen for clubs to nominate who they think should be part of the representative team, and having every club put people up for us to have a look at makes our job easier as well. So we want to have representation across all divisions, and pick the best team across those five divisions.
So when you are looking at a game in particular, are you particularly picking that game because you have one or two players that you're looking for already, that you've got an idea on? And if so, what are you looking for from them? Or are you just watching it with an open mind going, oh, I'm actually tuning in to have a look at player A, but gee, this player B is going all right. He's caught my eye.
It's probably a bit of both. We're definitely going to get across, as many of the people that have been nominated, but some do bob up that you sort of got, oh, hang on, they're not on our list, or let's watch them again. So we'll probably watch everyone if they're on our list at least twice, so that we get a good sort of feel. It's not all up to one game or what have you that we're making a judgment on people. So it's wandering around and concentrating on who we're concentrating on. But if someone bobs up, we're certainly excited to get them on the list as well and follow them up.
Well, we're certainly excited to see the list when it does come out. I know nominations for both this team, the under-19s as well, opening in early May for all clubs. So put through a few names for Marnes and the selection committee to consider. Marnes, just before we let you go, what does life look like for you these days without coaching Fitzroy?
Oh, it's a lot quieter, and I've got a bit more flexibility in my timetable, that's for sure. But no, it's good. I'm enjoying. I'm actually coaching under 14 girls this year at Moonee Valley. My daughter is playing, and so that's a bit of fun. Very different coaching to what I'm used to. Actually, got to teaching everyone how to kick and handball and all those sort of fundamentals, which you don't do as much when you're at the men's senior level, but it's good fun. So that's keeping me busy at this stage, and so that's where having this opportunity to be involved in the senior men rep side. So it's a great little taste of footy again for me at that senior level, and works in well with family life and work life as well.
Well, it's great to have you involved again this year in 2025. Thanks for jumping on and spending some time with us. I'm sure we'll catch up again before the first bounce of this game when you take on Bendigo away from Elsternwick Park this year. Good luck and we'll chat soon.
Appreciate it, Joey. Thanks, guys.
Awesome to spend some time with Luke Mahoney. Very shortly as well, we're going to announce the Big V women's coach, Jace, for this year, which is going to be very exciting. Paul Carrigan, he's back to coach the under-19 team. Now, there was two Pauls last year, was there not?
Yes, Paul Gilmore, Paul Carrigan. Paul Gilmore from St Bernard's, Paul Carrigan from Hampton Rovers. Unfortunately, Paul Gilmore, they both put their hands up to say, hey, we'd love to be involved. Unfortunately, Paul Gilmore, due to work commitments, can't do so. So Paul Carrigan stepping up to coach the Big V under-19s team this year. It's wonderful to have the 19s back together. We had the showcase last year, North versus South, where we played amongst ourselves, and it turned out to be an unbelievably high-quality game, extremely entertaining with ridiculous talent out at Elsternwick Park. Now the job of Paul Carrigan and his selection team is to somehow find, out of those 50-odd players that were so great last year, now it's the best of the best, the cream of the crop. One team pulling on the Big V to head up to Bendigo to take them on Sunday, July the 13th. Can't wait.
So on vafa.com.au, you've written a terrific piece speaking to both Luke Mahoney and to Paul Carrigan, which people can go back and read. But there was a little part of it that Paul gave you quote-wise that I just want to read out that I think is poignant when it comes to the under-19s and even for seniors in Premier B to Division 3, the actual Premier team in both men's and women's. He talked about when he came to training last year, or the guys who were picked in the squad to come to training, said, last year I saw some kids turn up doubting themselves. I could tell from the moment they got out of the car, they weren't sure if they belonged at this elite level. What I would say to these kids invited to train is that if you're invited, we and your club obviously think you are good enough, so let your personality shine. Now, Jace, you and I had the privilege of being over in Adelaide a couple of weeks ago for the Big V from the VFL standpoint to take on the Sandful, and I have no doubt the 23 blokes that played that day at some point across their program felt some sort of imposter syndrome. I'm standing next to Don Brew and Braden Crossley, who were last year's grand final captains, thinking, do I actually belong in this team? At an under-19 level, some of these kids have probably already played some senior footy, but I dare say there'd be a handful who have only reached the under-19s. And for these kids who get the opportunity, this might be, when you ask them in 10 years, their headline moment of their football career. And what Paul has said there is something that sits very strongly with me, because one of my headline moments in my very short career playing at St Bernard's is wearing a Big V jumper in this competition.
Albeit a dodgy Big V
Well,
jumper.
I didn't want to bring up the dodgy
let's not go
part,
off on
but yes.
that tangent. Yeah, absolutely. And he said, look, don't be reserved or shy. Don't play safe or take a backward step. If you see a teammate do something good at training, compliment them. We need a strong vibe in the group. We need players that can bond quickly and be supportive. And he also said they're opening it up to anyone in the VAFA who qualifies for the age criteria here. So if you're good enough, you'll get in, irrespective of what section you play in or whether you're top or bottom age, whether you're playing Premier Men's footy or whether you're playing down in the under-19s divisions. Resumes don't matter. They want to pick the best team they can to represent the VAFA in such a significant milestone year. So again, they'll be putting a call out to clubs to nominate their best young talent. We already know that there's so many great young players already playing at senior level across the different sections. They'll all be looked at as well. So it's not exclusive to players who are just playing in the under-19s comp. Similarly, it's not exclusive to players who are just playing in the Premier Divisions. They're going to scour the entire competition. And if you're good enough and your club puts your hand up and you get on the short list and they get to have a look at you, you'll get in.
Absolutely. And what I would say to anyone who's considering it, absolutely put your hand up. And even if you're only part of the squad, it's an experience well worth having and embracing. We'll take a quick break. After that, we are announcing the Big V women's coach. And let me tell you, there's some pressure on whoever it's going to be because we've never lost when we are the Big V women program taking on representative footy. More after this.
VAFA Media is next level in 2025, with more live stream and radio coverage coming your way every Saturday. 2 live games streamed every week on Community TV, plus our VAFA William Buck Match of the Day radio call on vafa.com.au and the SEN app, along with more live stream matches on vafa.com.au than ever before. Plus, every game from Premier Men's, Premier B, Premier C and Women's Premier on demand in full at vafa.com.au to watch throughout the week. Saturdays are for the VAFA. Catch the action on vafa.com.au, Community TV and the SEN app.
Footy's at the heart of Victoria, but gambling harm is creeping onto our fields. That's where the Real Stakes steps in. Backed by the Victorian Amateur Football Association, the Real Stakes helps local clubs tackle the risk of online sports betting head on. Get the tools, spark the conversation, and protect what really matters, your mates. Visit realstakes.com.au to find out more.
Keep up to date with everything that's happening around the VAFA by subscribing to our socials. We're on Instagram, X, Facebook, LinkedIn and TikTok. Join in the fun with the best pics, videos, stories and reels from around the competition. Send us your best and we might share them around the league. VAFA Socials. Search VAFA and VAFA Women's on your favourite platforms.
This is For the Love of the Game, the official podcast of the Ammo. So we've heard from Half. We've heard from Marnes. We've had a chat about the under-19s. Let's turn our attention, Jace, to the Big V women's program. Now, I'm very proud of this program because 5 times we've played, 5 times we've won. No pressure on the coach this year. Who's it going to be this year?
Well, the man who got the job done last year, Paul Groves, returns as the Big V senior women's coach in 2025. We're delighted to have him back. And Grovesy, we're delighted to have you on For the Love of the Game. Welcome.
Thank you, JB, Paddy and Joseph.
Great to hear your voice, Grovesy, and congratulations on the reappointment. Clearly 2 from 2 is nice from you when it comes to coaching the Big V women's program. We're going 3 from 3, Grovesy?
That's the plan. And everything I'm looking at and doing and speaking to the coaches so far as well from a number of the teams is around keeping the record intact.
I just brought up the 5 games, Grovesy, and we've kept our opposition previous to last year to a total of 5 goals. Last year we conceded 5 goals, so I think we might need to work on the defence this year. Can that be number 1 priority for you, please?
Yep. I've gone over the vision a couple of times in the last week or so, actually, to just to identify what sort of happened in those last sort of 5 minutes of that game. We were 13 points up and pretty comfortable with about 3 or 4 minutes to go in the last one last year in Perth. So on the biggest ground that football's ever been played
yes.
on. And at the Swans ground there. So yeah, I've had a bit of a look at that and what we did. We still we had 12 scoring shots to 6, and we had control of the game. Bar Ash Sharp kicking the last couple, who had played a number of really good seasons for Fremantle in the AFLW. So so that's sort of the synopsis of that last year's one.
The gap's obviously closed significantly, Grovesy, which is fantastic for rep footy. Well, as lovely as it is to go out there and beat teams by 25 goals for the sake of rep footy and for building series one after the next, last year was just such a fantastic contest. And immediately after the final sirens, everyone's already thinking about this year. So Perth are going to be super, super competitive again. What did you learn overall from what they're likely to bring to the table and maybe tweaks that we need to make in terms of squad balance or style of football or any other type of personnel-related issues? Like, what are the big takeaways to make sure that you do keep in front of them because they're coming at us hard?
Yeah, definitely. And look, their credit to Steph, who I know pretty well as well over there at coaching, and what she put together. They managed to bring in some top quality girls that were playing just local footy and not waffle. A number of them have gone back to waffle this year as well. And one girl's gone to, I think, rugby as well from that. So, or basketball maybe even. So, look, we over-handballed. In that game, we had way too many handballs. We weren't able to control the footy. Gave it back to them. They were hard and fast. When they got it, they were able to really run, and that was the team they picked. They're very bullish about being able to compete now. If you delve into their social media post of the coaches release the other week, which I have had a good look at. Steph was really saying now that they want to sort of they know they can compete now, so we want to try and snuff that out as quickly as we can.
Groves, I was lucky enough to call that game of footy, and what I was super impressed with was the 1-2 punch from Bree Doyle and Dakota Villiver in the midfield. Now, Dakota's not going to play because of her knee injury. How are you looking to shape up across the midfield? There's a ton of premier midfielders across the competition. Have you given that much thought at this early stage?
Yeah, I have. I've watched the first 2 rounds of the comp on the video and in person pretty closely. There's a number of new girls that have come back from VFLW permanently. We've lost a couple. Mia Caffrey played her first game for Port Melbourne the other night, which was great. I managed to get along there. She was playing against a few of my SNFLW girls, so able to get there and watch her have a go at that. Dakota will be a big loss, sort of 21 touches last year. Breeze is a superstar and her leadership just exudes. There will be, the nature of these things is the team does look a little bit different. And I am looking at now like the girls that just missed last year, like a Katie Hunter-Scott and a Hannah Smith and these girls that were part of the squad and just missed selection. I feel like they've really developed over the course of a year and are certainly putting their hands up. And the real smoky for me watching from the vision is old Geelong. And looking at their vision and their list, and my next job is now to try and stop them from going away in that week.
Yeah. Well, you'll get a good look at them this week. They're on our KTV doubleheader on Community TV, William Buck Premier Women's. They've got a quadruple header at Como Park this week.
A quadruple header?
The 2 girls teams and then the 2 guys teams. So 4 games in a row from Como Park. So on KTV from Saturday morning, the Resis at 8:30, the seniors at 10:30. And what a game, Grovesy, this will be. Old Geelong, as you mentioned, have come from nowhere, won the Premier B Grand Final last year. They're undefeated. They've started well against a Caulfield Grammarians team that's also undefeated and started well. This should be a barn burner.
Yeah, and Caulfield, I reckon I've missed one there the last year or two with little Chloe O'Malley, who's runs around the helmet, number 21. Yep. She did a bit on ball for him against Willie on the weekend. 2 weeks ago, and plays off a half back. And I'm hoping Chloe's not going away because I'm pretty keen to get her into the squad this year. But they've picked up really well from a couple of other clubs. They've got the small forward, Nanja Paulus from Collegians, who, again, very dangerous. So there's a number of them there that are now playing sort of more prominent roles along that. The bigger ground at Como Park, obviously with the double cricket pitch, which is unique in there as well. Yeah, it would be that's a cracker, and hoping to get along in person to have a little bit of a look at that, because I think a number of the girls from both teams will certainly be looking for selection in the rep team.
Rovesy, we spoke to Luke Mahoney a few minutes ago, and he spoke about the group chat that's been popping off over the last couple of weeks. Have you started to get a few messages back from the last year's team, just reminding you that their hands are up waiting for selection?
Yeah. I both to the 2024 and then the year before, the 2023, I threw out a sort of just a little survey, probably 3 or 4 weeks before the start of the season, or even earlier than that actually, just to get an understanding of, are they playing in, are they playing? Are they at the same club? Are they available? Have they got any European holidays booked, like Asher Price from Melbourne Uni is going to Europe this year, just so that I can get a bit of a quick snapshot of those girls. Some have moved, but then some are now sort of full-time back at their clubs. Some have had a crack at VFL. So it gives me a bit of a snapshot of where they're at. And they're, to be honest, going into a third year, it's now I've got relationships with those girls at most clubs that I can sort of lean on a little bit and get them to do a bit of the groundwork and not have to pester the coaches too much around who's going away, who's available. But the buy-in over the first 2 years has been exceptional. So I'm not expecting anything different this year.
So, Grovesy, we spoke to Harf a little bit earlier on as well, who's the senior men's coach for this year, who's got a storied history in the Amos. As do you, how much of this honour of being the coach, does this sit with you being a great St Bede's man who won a couple of premierships under Bevo? You've been around for a long time. You did some work at St Bernard's as well. I know you've done some stuff with Parade, who are now unfortunately no longer part of the competition. But just as an Amos person overall, how does this one sit with you personally in the 100th year?
Oh, look, that's it's a pretty big selling point. Not just for me, but for the girls as well. The 100th year. Oh, look, I've been extremely lucky and more from the people that you meet and the connections. And I talk to the girls about this in the first meeting every year. It's not like just being part of this process. You have no idea when you may bump into someone that coached you or was one of the team managers of the team or a board member of the Amos that you might be going for a job in 10 years' time. And you have that instant connection from playing a rep game years ago. Like I was lucky enough to play in a couple, and Dean Anderson, who now coaches the Scotch Women's, was my coach for two of them, I think, 2 or 3 of them. And just then to be able to reconnect with him and have a chat and see what he's doing with the Scotch girls, but also his kids and their footy as well. And that's not lost to me. And I feel like I have to give back in some way because I personally have got so much out of it, both the coaching and Monash Blues and the people that you meet along the way, and obviously the playing stuff from St Bede's and Parkdale and the connections and the mates. And just there's a real sense for me that I certainly owe the competition a fair bit. And when Jace rang me a couple of years ago to have a look at it and would I be interested, I sort of jumped at it because I feel hopefully the girls can benefit from it as well. But I want to be involved because I feel like I owe a little bit back to what has really sort of, for 20 years now, when back at St Bede's in 04, is sort of created what I've been able to do and me as a person as well.
Lovely to hear you say those words, Grovesy. Very well put. And being the 100th year, Joe, if there's ever a year you want to be involved,
without
in
doubt.
the Big V, as we mentioned earlier, we're going to have a massive formal gala function, the biggest function the VAFA's ever had on the Thursday night. All the players will be invited to that and have an opportunity to be presented with their jumpers, Grovesy, which was just a wonderful scene last year. It really hammered home to people just how deeply important this is to so many people in such a big community. So it's the perfect year to be involved. If you're a player and you're sort of sitting on the fence, I'm not sure, maybe I'll take some time off, this is the year. If you're ever going to play for the Big V, this is the year to do it.
Oh, 100%. And that's, I have had my coaching hat on a little bit looking at the timeline and around how that works. But the aura that these functions can do for the girls and the boys as well, and having all the teams there present, is going to be fabulous. And obviously we got to travel last year as well and see each other on a different side of things as well. But look, the function, I'm very excited about it. I'm going to certainly try and tap into a lot of past teammates of mine at different clubs as well. I know the great Benny Hogan. I've been on to him. Joe, I don't know. Do we want Hogs to turn up?
You might have to get him early in the morning. I wouldn't get him later on in the evening.
No, but no, he's a great man, doing a lot of great things with the St Bernard's Junior Footy Club as well. So just the amount of different people, and there'll be some that sort of don't necessarily want to, but God, there's a lot of saying, yeah, I'm coming. And there's a lot of different people that have played at different levels of Big V footy that will be excited to be there. And now we've sort of chucked in 5 or 6 women's games as well now. And some of these girls are going to have a fair resume post their career of rep footy and premiership footy as well.
Absolutely, and we can't wait for it. July 12 is the day that the girls will take on the Perth Footy League in that 100th anniversary out here at Alstonwick Park. And Grosey, for the 3rd time in a row, you'll be leading them as the coach. Thanks for jumping on and spending some time with us, mate.
Pleasure, mate. Thank you, guys. Very appreciative of all the work you guys do and keep us up to speed with everything that's happening, and hearing all your dulcet tones across the radios. It's very entertaining. So well done on all the work you guys do.
No pressure on Paul Groves, who is taking on the Perth Footy League for the Big V representative women on July 12. More information will come in the coming weeks on vafa.com.au. Let's turn our attention to this weekend coming, round 3, and our newshound is Brayden May from the Herald Sun and Community TV. Now, Brayden, there's a couple of cracking games in Premier C. Is that where we're going to start?
Yeah, it's going to be a massive weekend, week off, and we've already got games that are shaping up as absolute blockbusters. The one that's caught my eye, Bo Morris v Parkdale Vultures. The Vultures only one of 2 undefeated teams after 2 weeks, which just shows how even this division is. They'll head down to Banksia Reserve in a game that I reckon could be a finals preview. Bo Morris obviously have come down from B grade, but the Vultures, we know they're been in the mix for the premiership all season. There was no Mitch Brown in round 2, so will be massive to get him back, hopefully, for the Vultures, because he just provides a real point of difference in that forward line.
Hey, well, let's stick on Premier C, Brayden, because I read this article last week after we put out the podcast and your piece on Parkside and Vinny Romano, who you spoke to, the assistant coach down there. How have you seen their start to the season?
Well, they're 1-1, and I think there was a lot of intrigue about how they were going to go, obviously chasing 4 straight promotions this year, which would be something that would be remarkable. They've risen up the ranks, but one thing they're really enjoying is the element of games being filmed in the 3rd tier. They haven't previously had that unless clubs have done it themselves, where every game's filmed from Premier A to C, and it's just amazing. Like, they can actually go away and study their opposition. They've got more of an idea of what they might bring when they're just with that footy to the key players. Obviously, you're probably in the divisions rely on word of mouth, but to actually be able to see that and then put it into focus at training, it's really helping them. And this club just continues to defy the odds. And I'm not sure where they're going to finish. It's probably too hard given how tight this division is, but I'm really excited to see Parkside's development throughout the year.
Yeah, I can't agree more with that one, Brayden. There is no ceiling on the Parkside Footy Club, especially what they've done the last few years. Just before we get off Premier C, I had a chat to my man, Lockie Buzzard, and the boys at Ajax, who obviously he lets us have a lot of fun with. But the way they've started the year off the back of some pretty significant injuries over the off-season, they still aren't on their ground. I think they've had 4 of the last 5 weeks. They've been training one night a week at different venues. They're playing out at Old Haileybury Ground this week, Princes Park. But keep your eye on Jethro Gunn.
Yes.
He is an 18-year-old star who might be strongly considered for a Rising Star nomination in the next few weeks. I think he kicked 3 or 4 goals a couple of weeks ago.
Great name, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jethro Gunn.
Jethro Gunn is one to watch, Brayden. So if you don't write about him this week, you'll be writing about him next week. What about over in Division 1? Have you got anything for us over there?
Yeah, I think the one game that's really interesting is Ormond v UHS VU this weekend. The Mondas are 2-0. The Vultures are looking to avoid an 0-3 start. And obviously last season we spoke about them earlier in the year and they were right in the premiership mix. But to go 0-3, you would be a long way behind the 8 ball and it would be a long way to come back and play finals footy from my point of view.
Brunswick versus Old Peninsula, another game to keep an eye on in Division 1 this week. That's going to be an interesting one. Old Peninsula have come flying out of the blocks, 2-0. Brunswick are 1-1, but we know how good they've been in recent times.
It's the Bailey Pays factor for me at Old Peninsula. It's the Bailey
Speaking
Pays
of Rising
factor.
Stars.
Division 2, you got anything going on over there?
Well, one that we need to probably keep an eye on, we spoke to Coach Nick Abbey in pre-season, but his South Melbourne Districts, they're looking at 0-3 start, and they'll face off against a red-hot St. Mary's Salesian who are putting massive scores on the board. They put it on the whiteboard. They weren't scared to say that they want to play finals footy. They're coming off a big win. Who knows what the break might do for their momentum, but yeah, if St. Mary's Salesian can go 3-0 and then South Melbourne Districts go 0-3 after playing off in prelim last year, again, it's a long way back for one of the sides that we probably did have towards the top end of the ladder.
I know it's only 2 weeks in, but it's aesthetically pleasing to look at the Division 2 ladder where you see the top 4 are 2 from 2.
Yep.
The bottom 4, unfortunately, are 0 from 2, and you've got 5 and 6, 1 and 1.
Pretty numbers, Joey, pretty numbers. Braden, let's go to Division 3, mate. What do you got there?
Yeah, well, I think one that we've got to keep an eye on in the next few weeks is probably Powerhouse. They've had a really good, strong start to the season. They've put up some massive scores. They'll go into strong favourites against Chadstone this weekend, but I'm interested to see when they probably face off against a couple of the other sides, like your North Brunswicks, like your Wattle Parks, like the Richmond Centrals, just to see where they are in this premiership mix. So they should pick up the win this week, go to 3-0. But yeah, that's shaping as a really, really interesting one. And then I've got a bit of a watch on Wattle Park and Albert Park. Albert Park are 0-2, probably a bit behind where they probably thought they would be or where they'd like to be against the Wattle Park side that have proven that they're not going to be any slouches after relegation from Division 2.
And the other one to watch for me, I reckon, is Latrobe Uni versus Richmond Central.
Ooh.
2 top 4 teams at the moment. Let's get a bit of a handle on where they are relative to each other, because in Division 3, we've had some teams jump out. 3 teams have jumped out of the blocks and 2 and zip. And then you got Latrobe, who is sitting in 4th position at 1-1. So 3rd versus 4th, Richmond Central versus Latrobe, one to watch.
And you're right to keep an eye on Powerhouse because they've won their 2 games so far this year by a combined total of 352 points, Joey.
740 their percentage at the moment.
I would love to keep a watch on North Brunswick because my pre-season selection was they'll take it all before them in this section, Division 3. And, Braden, they haven't obviously shot the lights out in the first 2 weeks. Maybe they're doing something different and building into the year. But also, I know we discussed this in the pre-season, there was a handful of players that were key to their success over the last few years that are no longer at this football club.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And maybe there's going to be some teething issues with the new coach, obviously, a new game plan, new style, and those sort of things can take time. It might take 5 or 6 weeks before we see the Bulls play their best footy. It'll be interesting against Box Hill North this week.
Yep.
If they can come away with a win there, going 2-1, it gives them a nice little platform to build off. But I think they're going to be one that's right in the mix come the pointy end of the season because they've simply been there before, and experience matters at such a key time of the year.
Our KTV Community TV doubleheader this weekend is William Buck Premier Women's. Braden, quadruple header at Como Park. Old Geelong and Caulfield Grammarians, 2 teams who are undefeated through the first couple of weeks. We've heard Paul Groves mention a little bit earlier on the show just how impressed he's been by Old Geelong and their improvement coming up from Premier B premiership winners. Old Geelong and Caulfield, 8:30 the Resi's game, 10:30 the Seniors game Saturday on Community TV. That looks like being an absolute screamer.
It should be a cracking game of footy. Old Geelong, they're 2-0, as you said, and picked up a good win against Kew. Special things might be on the way, and this is a great day for footy at the club as well. As you said, 4 games all throughout the day. Where else would you rather be in Melbourne's beautiful weather?
You know what I'd love to see Braden write about this week? The groundsman of Old Geelong. How is he going to prepare a track for 4 games on it?
Especially if it's raining, which it's supposed to be. That's going to be a big job.
He's going to have a task. Can you get an interview with him for us, Braden?
He might be the busiest man in Melbourne.
I mean, the ground's big enough for a start, right? Yes. The ground's enormous.
Braden, we'll read everything you do right on the Herald Sun website. Thank you for jumping on, and we'll catch up next week after round 3.
Thanks very much, guys. Enjoy the week.
Are you looking to grow your business? William Buck are more than just accountants and advisors who can develop strategic growth plans for your business. With over 125 years' experience, William Buck has expertise in navigating through challenging times and has been working closely with the VAFA community, creating positive change for individuals, businesses and community organisations. William Buck's team of specialist advisors work collaboratively, providing you with 360 support. Schedule a complimentary consultation today by visiting williambuck.com. We are building up to round 3 this weekend after the Easter weekend bite. Now, just before we go back, Paddy, and update our tips from last week, because, of course, we did do a long-range forecast for round 3, you and I as well as Jace, obviously spent the weekend doing some VFL football. And what is there, 100-odd
100 players.
VAFA players running around?
100 VAFA men's players, let alone the women, playing in the VFL competition. And some of them have started really well for the season. It's been really positive for them.
Now, Paddy got gifted an Easter Sunday special by going out to the Whitten Oval. Were you not at Sandringham and Footscray?
By your man Buzz.
Happy Sunday for you. Only the Easter egg hunt down, where were you, Sorrento or something, and drove all the way to the Whitten Oval.
It was down with my cousins. We were walking around the front beach down at Rye. I get a text message from your man Buzz with the full support of the board that he's still enjoying.
With the full support of the board.
Asking if I'd like to jump into the hot seat. So fanged it all the way back, picked up my binoculars on the way and got it to Footscray with 10 minutes to spare.
Now, I'm told, Jace, that Paddy only knew one name. And it's the one name he wants to unpack here because it was the only bloke who mattered on Sunday at the game.
So we're going to highlight just a handful of VAFA players who are doing really well to start the season in the VFL, and one immediately came to mind. Paddy tripped over his own
immediately? Barely finished the sentence.
Trying to get him out.
Joey Campfield is his name. This is a young man who we've spoken about for a year.
You?
Oh, yeah. Well, Jace will remind you that he was part of the Rising Star Committee that was well on him before anyone else, so let's calm that one down. What I was thinking about last night and on the way here was where this guy was 12 months ago, Joey. So he started playing under-19s footy, kicked 33 goals in 9 games up to June, didn't play seniors. He'd played 1 game in 2023 when I think half the Brighton team was overseas at the middle point of the year. Got the gig in the senior side, didn't leave it for the rest of the year, won the Anytime Fitness Rising Star Award. I think it was 12 goals in 10 games or so. And really impressed is this big-bodied guy who played up forward, charged out of the goal square, and then hit the ground and was really aggressive with his tackling. Now, the reason why he was so aggressive and he was so fit and prepared was he used to be a midfielder. He grew rapidly in about his year 12 year. I think he was about 5'9", 5'10" before he rocketed up. He's now pushing 190.
Had some growing pains, didn't he? He had to have leg surgery.
He had, on his shin because his limbs were growing that quickly. So he's just turned 21, played every VFL game so far in his first season on the list for the Zebs, and he kicked 5 on the weekend. And he probably was the difference between the two forward lines in the end. What excited me was that his first 3 goals were all crumbing goals, handball received, snaps on goal, opportunistic things. What we saw from him last year in the Ammos was crashing packs, and he was winning shots at goal through marks, through tackles, holding the ball, but he was more of a hit-up forward. This year he's playing almost as a high half forward that gets up and back really quickly.
Yep.
There was a few times
and that's what's required at the next level.
But he seems, so the growth that he's had in 12 months' time, remember this was a guy who was tearing apart 19s footy to tearing apart VFL footy.
In 18 months, he could go from being under 19s in the VAFA to picked up in the mid-season draft and on an AFL list. And that's a great example of what... When I look at a kid like Harry Wharf, who's just starting that same journey at Old Zabs, there are kids out there right now that might be starting in the under 19s that the likes of Paul Carey are going to be looking at, but by the middle of the year, they could actually be on an AFL list. If not this year, then maybe next year.
I was going to say, is it too unrealistic to think in 6 weeks' time when we have the mid-season draft that if a side is looking for the next prospect to be that development key forward for them going forward?
I really don't want to get ahead of myself, but it is kind of my MO. But what I was thinking in the car on the way here, there's a club in the AFL that's just had 2 rucks go down with season-ending injuries, as well as a medium-sized forward in Tom Edwards-Do and ACL, and that's at the Essendon Footy Club. They're going to be short a few forward options as this year continues. We're looking at a ruck combo of Goldstein and Wright. There's going to be space inside 50, so...
You're going for Joey. I've gone for Handlebars.
Well, James Tarrant as well. He's going really well. Like it was fantastic for North against Carlton. He kicked 3 goals, so he's going superbly also.
Can I ask you, just back on that game, and then we'll go through a couple of other names. Will Lewis is also playing in that game for Footscray, and he is, he's known as a forward in our comp, but Greg Hutchison found him at Brighton Grammar as a defender. Did he play on Joey at all?
No, I'm just trying to remember. I think he played mostly forward. Okay. I don't reckon I actually saw much of him after half time.
Yeah, they usually use him forward, the Dogs.
So he was playing forward, and then I don't reckon I saw much of him after half time. Chan Hargraves was the number 1 option after the long break.
Okay.
Ryan Valentine also kicked
Now, Ryan was actually out of the Coburg team on Friday, and their captain was a late out, so Jamie Cassidy-McNamara, also from the Ammos, brought Ryan in. He kicked 3 goals, 7 shots a goal, had a serious impact on the game. It was the first time in 17 years Coburg had knocked off Williamstown. I think they've got to play him alongside Matty Allison in that forward line week in, week out. But the other one for mine at that Coburg team is Donovan Tui.
Yeah.
Of course, 2023 Team of the Year. He was in Fitzroy's team week in, week out. Had that many disposals. It wasn't funny. He's averaging 31.5 disposals a game in his first 4 of this year. I don't think Fitzroy's seeing anything of Donovan this year at all. You can forget that. He's playing there every week.
He's flying. Ollie Lowe at North Melbourne also doing great things. He's catching the eye early in the season. Tom Blamires is down at Frankston. He had 33 touches. Tarkin O'Leary kicked 3 goals as well. I mean, up and down the competition, there are just so many talented players. We saw Sam Grant play against Tyler Sellers on the weekend. Port versus Essendon. So 2 old Scotch teammates playing against each other at VFL level.
Now, if Tyler Sellers has a good few weeks, he's already at Bomberland. He could be one they consider. Of course, not unfortunately delisted by the Kangaroos a couple of years ago now, but he could be one they consider.
Yeah, I think so. I think that Essendon example, especially for the forwards across the competition, and there are so many of them. What I love about this is it's the guys who were so impressive on Grand Final Day who are being rewarded now with these extra opportunities, because James Tarrant, I mean, you know more about this than me, Joey, but he tried out for a long time, I believe, at North Melbourne as a defender.
He did.
And then 4 goals on Grand Final Day, the wonderful season that he had, the Big V representation back-to-back. He gets to go as a forward. He's kicked a goal in every game so far this year.
The other one who got repurposed, different role, who's playing at Old Zabs this year, Tex Wanganeen, played at Port Melbourne on the weekend. Again, if he continues the form he showed on the weekend, he ain't spending much time at Old Zabs. They threw him back and he played as a defender. He's generally been at the other end of the ground. They threw him back. He had 22 touches and really settled and really natural down back. So much talent filtering through the VAFA, which is wonderful, which brings us to tip time, gentlemen.
Yes.
Tip time. After 2 rounds, Paddy Grindlay on 13, Joseph Pignataro also on 13. You got an early look last week to put your tips in.
Yes.
And now we offer you the opportunity to make any adjustments that you might want to do. So let's start with...
because I can't remember what I picked.
Well, then we tip fresh with fresh eyes, don't we? We'll start with Premier B men's. Fitzroy versus Willie CYMS in another one of these games that tugs at Paddy's heartstrings.
So, so you're going for double jeopardy here, because I was under the bus last week. I've got Dylan filming my reaction, and you're going for it again. I tipped Fitzroy last week. I've been wavering. This is a really close game of footy. I'm going to stick with the Roys. I'm going to give them a mulligan on their first fortnight of the season.
Why don't you tip a draw?
That's weak, I would say.
Unless it happens, in which case it's genius.
Unless it's genius. This will be interesting, though, because just before we move to our next game, because Willie are used to playing on smaller grounds, and Brunswick Street Oval, where this game will be held, will probably fit their style more than some of the bigger grounds in the VAFA. So looking forward to this one. I might be in attendance.
Has he given a team yet? Or he just gone on
I think he went Fitzroy.
I think he went Fitzroy. The game is Friday, by the way, at 2 o'clock for anyone who is interested in going out to watch that game of footy. I'm going for Williamstown. So at least one of us will come up trumps.
Constantinos will be on the line regardless next week, I think.
Old Camberwell versus Old Carey.
I am going for the Panthers in this game. I'm pretty sure that's where I went last week, and I'm going to stay the same.
Yeah, I think Old Carey's been super impressive. I'm going to take the team at home, though, the Wellers for me.
Hampton Rovers versus Old Trinity.
Can't go past the green and gold of Trinity. I think I said the exact same thing last week.
Yep, I'll follow suit there, Trinity for me.
Old Melburnians versus Old Ivanhoe. Could be a grand final preview. Very early call, but gee whiz, these two teams are stacked.
I was trying to find the last time that the Hoers have played at Elstonwick Park, and I used this great website, australianfootball.com.au, to try and find out. Couldn't find a game that's been recorded. So it's...
You would have to go back the best part of 2 decades when they were playing up in A grade.
Yes.
Well, remember Jared Geesham, when we had him on the pod last week, mentioned that exact fact that they are so excited to get here to Elstonwick Park, the home of VAFA footy, and also somewhere that they're more than likely going to have to win at come September if they want to go all the way.
I reckon they will. I reckon the Hoers do it.
Billy Murphy, Alex Murkov, Toby McLean, and Patrick Naish were 4 names he mentioned last week.
And Charlie.
And then you came up with Ivanhoe Nation. Somehow it got through onto the socials.
Paddy's putting that in a shirt, I reckon.
Was there any feedback on the socials about that?
Oh, there was.
Loved it. Loved it.
Was there?
Massively popular.
Look forward to your headline on Monday. I'm going with the Old Melburnians in this game. I reckon they can do it at home.
And the final game of Premier B, round 3, Old Geelong versus Caulfield Grammarians.
Now, as we've mentioned, 250 for anyone who is heading out to Como Park. That game is a little bit later because of the quadruple header.
So if it's wet, this game will be difficult.
And you'll be able to park at the MCG and walk down by that time of the day.
Yes.
This is interesting one. I reckon I like the Ogs on their home deck. Caulfield have been super impressive. I'm going to go with Nick Dixon and the Ogs.
It's going to be a good phone call on Monday when you ring Sats as he's the winner.
Yep.
You're on Caulfield?
Yep. Yeah, I'm going for Satsy.
To William Buck Premier Men's Round 3, which, gentlemen, is Showcase Round, which we're very excited about.
Showcase Round.
For the first time ever in the history of the VAFA competition, all 5 Premier Men's games this weekend will be live streamed.
All 5?
All 5 games. So we are ramping up the coverage, and it starts on Friday at 12:50 p.m, vafa.com.au, the live stream of Old Scotch versus Collegians at Camberwell. The old traditional annual Anzac clash between the Lions and the Cardinals. Old Scotch and Collegians, who you got?
I'm going to go for Scotch at home. I'm also feeling for the reserves who drew the short straw and they've got to play after the seniors. But I'm going for Mark Nat's team.
Yeah, Natty for me.
Uni Blues versus Uni Blacks. Again, vafa.com.au, 150 on Saturday.
150?
Leading into the the game's at 2 o'clock.
I thought we were staggering the games or something.
No, the stream starts at 1:50. Game starts at 2.
And so, just to confirm, all these games are available on vafa.com.au?
All of them. Yep.
Mega Wall yourself?
Yeah, that's it.
And they'll all have callers doing some of their best work.
Absolutely.
That is outstanding. I'm going for the University Blues.
I think I will follow suit.
St Bernard's versus Old Brighton, the 2 undefeated teams. St Bernard's at the Snowfields for the first time in 2025.
You're going to start that crap again, are you?
Was it Marcus Holland who got that treatment in the VFL broadcast last year? I enjoyed your work.
What time does the coverage of this one start? I think we should do a 3-hour preview at 11 a.m.
If you're on air.
You're on this one. So
you press record whenever you like, Joey.
150 technically, but I wouldn't be surprised to hear you on air at 9 o'clock, all pumped up and excited. St Bernard's Old Brighton.
Can I just say before you give your tip on this game, this is arguably the club's most important weekend of the year. They have, similar to Scotch, their own Anzac tradition with all funds raised going to the East Kill or RSL on this particular weekend, which has been going for, I think, 10 to 12 years now. They've only lost this game once. It's one of the pencil it in the calendar, mark it in, whatever. They do not lose this weekend because of how significant outside of the game itself is to the football club and the people involved around this one. That is a serious point on it. The game itself, I think they'll win because it's at home, and I'm still sort of trying to work out how Harry Hill managed to ring while we were on the podcast last week.
I look back to last year's game where Old Brighton had 30 scoring shots to 19 and they only won by a kick. I'm going to back the Tunners in again.
What a game that promises to be, and what a win that would be for St Bernard's to go 3-0 if they can get over last year's minor
What a podcast it will be if they do go 3-0.
Might have to take the week off. De La Salle versus St Kevin's. Again, this is actually our SEN match of the day game, so that'll be on from 1:45. You'll have our SEN team led by Paddy, and you can watch the game live on vafa.com at the same time, simulcast. So 1:45 on Saturday, first bounce at 2. De La versus St Kevin's at Waverley.
I think it will be Anthony Lynch's men. St Kevin's for me.
Can't disagree.
And the final game of the weekend, one of the most fascinating.
Yeah.
Old Zabs versus Old Haileybury at Toorak Park, again on vafa.com.au, the live stream from about 10 to 2. Old Zabs and Old Haileybury, who do you like?
It's been 2 very different performances from Zabs. And I know 2 different teams that are in different areas of the ladder. They kicked 6 goals 2 weekends ago in a loss to St Kevin's. The week before then, when they played D-La, they kicked 28. So if they can find somewhere in the middle, I'll be pretty happy with them. Old Haileybury have been impressive. They smashed Collegians.
And then they kicked the last 5 goals.
Ran home well against
Tunners.
The Tunners, who had a few VFL boys coming back. I think it's the Zabs at Toorak Park to win, though.
I want to tip Old Haileybury. I'm off the Old Zavarians after they let me down 2 weeks ago. The aura's gone. I've had enough of it.
2 weeks of aura.
I've had enough of it. After round 1, they were just peacocking around. They thought they owned the place, and then they butchered 2 weeks ago. And as you said, Jace, Tex Wanganeen for Port Melbourne. I don't know if he's coming back to play for Zabs. I like Daniel Ward's boys. Old Haileybury will win that game.
There we go.
That'd be huge for the Bloods if they could. So every Premier Men's match streamed live and free on vafa.com.au across the weekend with our full commentary team, full graphics packages on everything. We are rolling out VAFA Media to the very next level, and we want everybody to experience what it's like to have all these games available to watch simultaneously, so you can maybe be at one game and flick around and see what's going on at another game and have that sensation that we get at other football competitions. So showcase round this weekend, get behind it and enjoy it.
And don't forget, of course, the women's game that is on is a massive game. So if you're interested in that one...
Well, it kicks off with KTV, 8:30 in the morning. The Resi's game
all
into the seniors game,
and
then straight through after that into the men's games in the afternoon. So it is a monstrous...
Super Saturday.
Monstrous Super Saturday of VAFA coverage. Showcase round 3.
Can't wait for it. All the information will be on vafa.com.au. Congratulations to all the blokes we spoke to on their coaching announcements today, from Daniel Harford right through to Paul Groves, and you can read all about that as well on the website. And you know what? We'll come back next week and do it all again.